Hello and welcome to another edition of Business Weekly on CTTV with me, Pius Amihere Eduku. Coming up in this edition, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia responds to critics of government's recent $2.25 billion bond. Also, banks' non-performing loans increased by 36% between February 2016 and the same period this year. Details of these plus other business stories coming up in this edition. In our first story, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has described the minority in Parliament attacks on government's latest $2.25 billion bond as a display of ignorance. The minority group in Parliament, led by a former Deputy Minister of Finance, Kesol Atuforson, alleged that the issuance was done in secrecy, denying other investors the opportunity to participate in the bond. But speaking to journalists at the ongoing spring meetings in Washington, D.C., the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, stressed that the decision should rather be lauded as it will help government settle outstanding debts. In a related development, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, says government would have to step up efforts in dealing with the country's debt levels. The government has stated that the $2.25 billion bond is going to help it manage its debt. The Assistant Director for the Fiscal Affairs Department of the IMF, Catherine Patino, tells City Business News more needs to be done aside current efforts to maintain fiscal discipline. Let's still stay with government because early this week, the Nana Akufo-Addo-led administration marked its first 100 days in office. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia touted the government's efforts at stabilizing the country's currency. There have been mixed reactions from businesses in relation to this matter. The president of GUTAD, Berimark Dr. George Ofori Amayao I, some importers as well as players in the real estate industry rather advocated increased efforts aimed at reducing the cedi's depreciation. According to them, they would prefer an appreciation to about 3 cedis to the dollar in the short to medium term. Meanwhile, the CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, Mark Bedu Abuaje, stressed the need to reduce interest rates to allow businesses to expand and employ more. On his part, the executive director for the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, urged government to do more to reduce prices for consumers in the petroleum sector. Let's now take you to the banking industry, and the latest banking stability report by the Bank of Ghana has shown that non-performing loans of banks increased by 36% between February 2016 and the same period this year. The figure increased from 4.7 to 6.4 billion cedis between the 12-month period. The report also revealed that commerce and finance plus electricity, gas and water sectors accounted for the highest non-performing loans of banks at 63.4%. Staying with the banking industry, and this week the latest annual percentage rate and average interest report by the Bank of Ghana showed that the average interest on customer deposit by banks has dropped by about 0.4% between February and March 2017. The figure declined from 11.6 to 11.2%. According to the report, Access Bank offers the highest interest on customer deposits at 16.4%. Meanwhile, Standard Chartered Bank offers the lowest on customer deposits. Its rate, however, dropped from 6.04 in February to 3.4% in March 2017. To the energy sector now, and the Institute of Energy and Climate Change Policy has stated that government may require good negotiation skills to cap the price of power from independent power producers at 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Ghana's cost of power has been cited as expensive relative to its neighbors. But according to the Director of Research at the Institute of Energy and Climate Change Policy, Dr. Philip Adom, the directive could be carried out with existing independent power producers producing above 10 cents should government negotiate effectively with the power producers. We end with news from the aviation sector, and industry players have renewed calls on government to work to re-establish a new national carrier in order to increase passenger volumes into and out of the country. The change in government has led to a temporary suspension of processes to secure a partner for the renewal of the operations of the national air carrier. The development, however, comes after 2 failed attempts to re-establish a national airline. But the Vice President of the International Air Transport Association, Raphael Kuchi, explains to City Business News the success of the new carrier would largely hinge on government limited intervention. And that is it for this week's edition of Business Weekly on City TV. I am Pius Amihere Eduku. Log on to citybusinessnews.com for more stories. Join us again next week.